Hello, yes, and welcome to another episode of MLS Ireland. Well, I'll be bringing to you my amazing predictions for this week's MLS 7, I believe it is. So, you know the crack. Stay tuned. Perfect, thank you very much for joining me. Yes, my name is Sean, and if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button. I'm at 177, which is pretty impressive for the amount of great predictions that I provide. Saying that, this week's going to be pretty mental because there's a lot of games there's a lot of teams that haven't really came out of the screen to say this one's going to be a dead ringer for a winner. Maybe, I know LA Galaxy has played 3 games, their 3 games at home, they've won them. That's pretty easy, as well as Atlanta have won their 2 games at home, which is pretty easy to come against, but they're coming up against a Nashville team who haven't lost, and Atlanta are not really scoring many goals in the, it is a tricky thing, all this. As I said, if you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you're on Twitter, follow me on Twitter at MLS Watch. It's a fantastic name. I'm on Instagram at MLS Ireland as well. I'm on Twitch, so give me a wee follow over there. There's probably one thing up in there. I'm planning to do more, but I'm trying to wait for a weekday kind of result predictions, and then I'll do them on that. And I do think what should I do? Maybe like watch alongs and all that kind of stuff, and all that kind of stuff. And would you show up? Anyway, may as well crack on because it is a Thursday and I'm off tomorrow. Luckily, but my car's has to get fixed, I believe. But anyway, I digress. The first game, Chicago against Montreal. Now, Chicago Fire, who are not bottom, which is pretty good, but they're second from bottom. And they're coming up against a Montreal team who are started off okay, did well, then tailed off. And they're coming up against the Chicago Fire, who won last week, which is quite surprising. They beat Inter Milan, even though that was a questionable goalkeeping error. I'm not going to say questionable, the error was crap. But anyway, yeah, Inter Miami didn't really have much for them. Chicago Fire probably had the better of it. Tactically, they had a spot on. I don't think Phil Nelva has his plan yet implemented, whereas Chicago Fire probably do. So coming up against the Montreal team, who are, like I said, started off okay, then won a game against Inter Miami, then kind of tailed off against Atlanta, and then at home again. Well, at home, when you say at home, they're in Miami against Cincinnati, which was a pretty good game because Montreal took the lead, and then Cincinnati actually came back into the game quite well. So they're coming up against the Chicago Fire team, who are, like I said, won their last game. So they're probably coming into this game a wee bit more, a bit more bite, a bit more confidence coming into this game, as Montreal probably are not. So I'm going to go for probably a 1-1 draw. I don't think Chicago Fire really have that many goal scorers in that team, but I do think they're probably a bit more up for this game more than Montreal. So yeah, pretty much a 1-1 draw. Next one is New York Red Bulls against Orlando. Again, New York Red Bulls won their last 2 games at home, which is a pretty impressive result. They are not doing great away from home, which is probably the reason why they're sitting in 21st in the Supporters Shield. They're coming up against the Orlando team, who won their last 2 games and are sitting 4th, who beaten DC United, which isn't a hard game. They only won 1-0, and then they beat Toronto 1-0. So you can probably tell that they're not scoring that many goals. They're probably going to get Dike back. I probably butchered that name several times there now, but anyway. So yeah, they're coming up against a far better team. You could probably suggest that New York Red Bull are far better at home, but Orlando are not that bad away from home either. They haven't lost a game this season, which is pretty good for Orlando. For like 2 seasons ago, this is not heard of at all. They used to like to score a lot of goals and lose. Not this season. They're doing pretty well. So they're coming up against a New York Red Bulls team who are, as I said, are not too bad at home. But I think they're not going to have the bite for this game. I think it's going to be like a 2-1 win to Orlando. I just think Orlando have a far better team. New York Red Bulls have an identity of pressing, but they just don't have that goal scorer. So I don't think it's going to be there this season. If they get their strikers back into form and Roy and all that kind of stuff, they may have a chance, but probably not this game. So yeah, 2-1. Next is Columbus Crew against Toronto. Columbus Crew are actually having a very rotten game here this season. They did win last week against New York City. They beat DC United as well, but then they got beat at home, got beat away against New England, and they got beat by Toronto away from home. So they're taking on Toronto again. So since the start of the 12th of May. So yeah, 2 weeks later, they're playing them again. So they got beaten that one 2-0. And I'm not going to suggest that they're going to get beaten this one. I think it's probably going to be a 2-1 win. I think coming into beating New York City, which is a pretty good, impressive result in New York, I think they're going to have a bit more bite into this one. So I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win. I can't see Toronto. They're like second, third from bottom at the moment. They've only won the one game, and that was against Columbus Crew. And I don't think Columbus Crew are going to let the same mistakes happen again. So yeah, I'm going to go for that one. The next one is Cincinnati against New England Revolution. Cincinnati won their first game of the season last week. Congratulations to them against Montreal. They're coming up against a New England team who are second. It is MLS, and they're doing actually pretty well. They only lost the one game this season, and that was against Nashville. Nashville, who haven't got beaten this season either, too. So, it's not bad. They drew against Philadelphia, but they won their other games, which is incredible for them. Like I said, now they're coming up against an FC Cincinnati team who won their last game, but I don't see it happening this time. Even though that they are at home, they have their fans with them. They will make a fight of it. They could get a goal, but New England they're not really letting in that many goals. Like, let's see, away from home, they've only let in 3. So that's not too bad. They've only played 2 away games, but in 3 games it's not bad. 3 goals. So yeah, I'm going to come up with this game. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to New England. For the fact that I like Cincinnati, I want them to do well. I had them as my dark horses to get into the playoffs. It's still early days, but coming up against a good, very, very good team, very organised team, New England. I just don't see them getting this one. So yeah, 2-0. Atlanta against Nashville. Will Nashville get into? Who cares? Atlanta, they drew against Seattle. If there's somebody watching and said should they be playing different? Last week I said they're going to get stuffed by Seattle, which they didn't. They actually outplayed Seattle for most of the season, most of the game. So congratulations to Atlanta, but they needed a kind of like a penalty to bring it around and all that kind of stuff, and they were going to get beaten. Seattle are the best team in the league at the moment, but they're coming up against Atlanta against Nashville. Atlanta, who are they're finding their feet with Joseph Martinez. They will be playing with a 3 in the back. Nashville are not a team that will play particularly free in the back. So let's see, what was in the last Nashville? I should be doing this before all this kind of crack, but anyway. So yeah, Nashville are more of a 4 at the back with 2 holding. So coming into this game, I would suggest that Atlanta will probably have more of the possession on the wide areas, whereas Nashville are probably going to try and keep a low block on this game. Coming into this one, I think this will be a tight one. I don't think Nashville will actually lose this one, so I'm going to go for like a 1-1 draw. I just think they have a good defense and they have a pretty good defender in Zimmerman. So I think it's going to be like a cagey one, but I'm going to go for like a 1-1 draw. So yeah, the next one, sorry about the pause, but I'm going to shorten it in the edit and you'll never know. Apart from me telling you there now. Anyway, I'll probably cut that bit out too. So yeah, next one is Los Angeles Football Club against New York City Football Club. Generic names, love them. LAFC coming up against the New York City FC team who are 13th and LAFC who are 16th. So kind of like a mid-table, just kind of shows these FC's names are pretty cool when you think about it. When the top 3 teams don't have these are Seattle Sounders, New England Revolution, Sporting Kansas City. Anyway, I digress. They're coming up against a very good team, but I think LAFC are finally, I'm not going to say finally getting into their feet, but they know now what they're doing because they won against Colorado Rapids, who are not a bad team at this moment in time. And as for New York City FC, who lost against Columbus Crew, drew it against Toronto, and then drew against Orlando, which isn't a bad result. But they really haven't beat many big teams at the moment. They beat Philadelphia, but that was Philadelphia basically still sleeping. So yeah, I'm going to come up for like a 2-0 win to basically into LAFC. They're just a far better team. They're going to get their mainstays back into this. I think Bob Bradley may start to figure out how to play this game, whereas New York City, I just don't see them being a... it's hard to know. They've signed a new Brazilian, so I wonder to see what he'd be like. I'm not going to say I'm going to see much of them this season, this week, so who knows. So yeah, I'm going to go for like a 2-0 win. The next one is LA Galaxy against San Jose. So two LA teams, probably around the same time. I can't see the times. I missed that. Anyway, they're coming up against a very good team, San Jose Earthquakes, who started off the season quite well, and then they started off winning 3, which everybody's all like, happy days, they're back, and then they started to lose 3. All at home too, which is weird. Against Seattle, Portland, and Sporting Kansas City. So yeah, they're coming up against an LA Galaxy team who haven't lost at home, and they are sitting 5th. So that's pretty impressive for an LA Galaxy team who used to be awful. So they're coming up against the San Jose team. I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win. I think LA Galaxy are a fair better team in better form at this moment than Sporting Kansas City, where they basically just cliff dived at the moment. So I don't see them doing all that great in this game. Next one is Inter Miami against DC United. DC United who start the game off a bit of passion, a bit of zest, then they concede, and then the game goes to shit on them. And they're coming up against an Inter Miami team who possibly you can say the same, but more spectacularly, kind of the way that I said that. So Inter Miami, I still haven't really been convinced by them. I don't know if it's the manager or it's just too many players that are, I'm not going to say they're for themselves, but are they team players? They're not like a system player. I think it's just an individual, or basically waiting on an individual to do thing, which is Higuain, who's only scored not that many this season, 2 I think. Anyway, so yeah, I don't see them doing all that great, but they're coming against a DC United team who are, I'm not going to say a letdown, but probably a letdown to their fans. So I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win. Just Inter Miami probably are a far better team. They're probably at home in their own heat. DC United probably not going to be all up for it because it's going to be a sticky heat probably. The next one is Sporting Kansas City against Houston Dynamo. Sporting Kansas City are actually doing alright. Actually, they lost 2 games, which was quite strange, against Real Salt Lake away from home and Houston Dynamo, which was away from home. Then they beat Sporting Kansas City, San Jose Earthquakes 3-1 away from home. So this is going to be their home game against Houston Dynamo. I'm saying all these things weird today. Where is Houston Dynamo? They're 7th in the league, and they won their last game against Vancouver, but got beat by Colorado. So this is going to be, like I said, MLS is very unpredictable at the moment, which makes my job a lot easier, a lot worse. So yeah, he's even confused my own head. Sporting Kansas City probably should win this game, so I'm going to go for like a 2-0 win. I haven't seen much of the 2 teams, but Sporting Kansas City, as I know, are far a better unit probably than Houston Dynamo are at the moment. Like, they're still good, but I think Sporting Kansas City are just that bit better. Shadow. Anyway, the next one is Colorado against Dallas. Colorado are actually doing very well this season. They lost their last game against LAFC, which is not too bad. And then they got beat by Austin in their second game of the season. I kind of think that was kind of Austin getting in, like, having a lot of adrenaline, but then they kind of tanked after that. So, yep. And they're coming up against a very good team in Colorado. I think this is going to be like a 3-1 win. I don't see FC Dallas getting into this. They're like 20th in the league, and whereas Colorado Rapids are 9th. So they're probably going to be the favourites. Rightly so, going into this one. So I'm going to go for a 3-1. The next one is Real Salt Lake, who've only played 5 games this season, coming up against a Minnesota United team who played 6 games and won their last 2, but lost their first flipping 4. They beat Dallas and beat Vancouver, which is not bad. They only won 1-0, 2 of them. So they're coming up against a Real Salt Lake team who are, let's see where they are. They drew their last 2 games. They started off very well, and then they kind of drew against Dallas, which isn't a great result. So Real Salt Lake No, I'm in Minnesota. Deshaun, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm going for a 0-0 in this one. I just don't see these two teams going to be starting to score many goals. I know Real Salt Lake did draw 2-2, but still. I was going to go for a 0-0. The next one is Philadelphia against Portland. Don't know why I'm talking like that, but anyway. Philadelphia, who I do enjoy. I think they're going to be a good team this season. They started off awful, but they won their last two games, which is not too bad. Let's see who was against the New York Red Bulls and DC United. Well, 1-0 each in those. Then they're coming up against the Portland Timbers team, who can on their day beat anybody who they want and then get beat by the easiest team you could probably suggest. So yep, they beat LA Galaxy 3-0, which was a pretty good result because I thought it was going to be the other way about. And then they beat San Jose Earthquakes 2-0 away from home. So they actually had a good season so far. They got beat by Dallas 4-1, which is probably an off day. They got beat by Seattle at home, which is not bad. Like, Seattle are very good, and they lost their first game at home 1-0. So the Portland coming into this game probably are a very good team, but I think Philadelphia are the better. So I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win. Philadelphia are in the league, and where they are at the moment because they are a better team, and I think Portland have a good distance to travel. So yeah, I'm going to go for that a 2-1 win. And the last game is Seattle Sounders against Austin FC. Seattle Sounders, who are top, and Austin, who are 22nd. So you would think this is going to be an easy game, whereas Orlando now have a couple of injuries at the moment, whereas Seattle don't. They drew in a frustrating game against Atlanta. So saying this, I think they're going to go and hold this game. They're going to basically come out of the traps, and they're probably going to destroy Austin. Sorry. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win. Seattle are just a far better team. It's nothing to be ashamed about. Austin has lost their last 3 games away from home. Well, they've lost all their games away from home because they're all playing all the games away from home until they get into their new stadium, which does look cool. Until then, they'll probably start picking up results better again. So yeah, I'm going to go for like a free will to Seattle. So yep, that is my predictions. Hope you enjoyed them. Hope you see the next one, and I hope to see you soon. Toodaloo. Bye now.